Someone asked a question on social media recently that stopped a lot of people. Mi discro. Be honest. What's eating up your money? And the responses came flooding in. Subscriptions they forgot about. Food delivery 3 times a week. Clothes hanging in the wardrobe with the tags still on. Gadgets bought in excitement and abandoned in a drawer. Nights out that cost more than they should. Things bought at midnight because the algorithm showed them at the right moment. Things bought because someone they follow had it and suddenly they needed it too. Honest answers. How answers. But here's what nobody said in those comments. Nobody said, my need for approval is eating my money. Nobody said, my inability to sit with discomfort is eating my money. Nobody said, the gap between who I actually am and who I'm trying to appear to be. That gap is eating my money. Those are the real answers. And the Stoics, philosophers writing in ancient Rome over 2,000 years ago, already knew this. Not because they had spreadsheets or financial planners. Because they studied human nature so deeply and so honestly that they could see the root of the problem beneath all the surface symptoms. And the route, as you're about to find out, has very little to do with your income and everything to do with your mind. This is going to be a long one. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see you're spending in a way you've never seen it before. Before we talk about solutions, we need to be honest about the problem. And the Stoics were always honest first. They had a word for what's really happening when money keeps disappearing, no matter how much comes in. Epithumia. In Greek philosophy, epithumia means excessive desire. It's the wanting that goes beyond genuine need. The hunger that expands faster than your ability to satisfy it. The feeling that if you just had that one more thing, the right phone, the right outfit, the right experience, the right number in your bank account, then you'd finally feel okay. Seneca, who was one of the wealthiest men in all of Rome and also one of the greatest Stoic philosophers who ever lived, described the trap with surgical precision. He said most people are not poor because they have too little. They are poor because they want too much. Sit with that for a moment. Not too little income. Too much desire. Now, here's why this matters. Practically because the solution most people reach for when they feel financially stuck is more money. Work harder. Get the promotion. Start the side hustle. Find another stream. And none of those things are wrong. But if the desire isn't dealt with, more money doesn't fix the problem. It just upgrades it. You've seen this in real life. You've probably lived some version of it yourself. You earn more than you did 3 years ago. And somehow, the month still feels tight. The lifestyle quietly expanded to match the income or sometimes expanded ahead of it. The subscriptions got more expensive. The restaurants got nicer. The phone got newer. The standard shifted, slowly and silently, until the new income level felt exactly as tight as the old one. The Stoics had a name for this too. Modern psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill, the phenomenon where every improvement in your circumstances produces a temporary boost in satisfaction. And then your baseline adjusts, and you're back to wanting more. The Stoics didn't need modern psychology to identify it. They watched it happening in Rome, the wealthiest city in the known world, and they wrote about it with the kind of clarity that makes you feel like they are watching us right now. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, Vindica chichibi reclaim yourself for yourself. Stop living according to what desire tells you and start living according to what reason tells you. That's the diagnosis. Desire without reason, wanting without examination. And until you understand that, no budget, no savings plan, no financial strategy will hold for long. Because before we go deeper into the problem, let's look at the men themselves. Because one of the most important things, too, understand about Stoicism and money is that the Stoics were not broken philosophers, preaching simplicity from a position of poverty. They had money, real money, and they had a complicated, thoughtful, honest relationship with it. Seneca was extraordinarily wealthy. He owned multiple villas, had significant land holdings, made loans across the empire, and lived in genuine luxury for much of his life. And he knew it was a contradiction. He wrote about it openly, almost uncomfortably so. He asked himself the same questions his philosophy demanded he ask. Do I need this? Am I controlled by this? If I lost all of this tomorrow, would I still be okay? He practiced what he preached, not by giving everything away, but by regularly stripping it back, living simply for stretches of time, eating the basic meal, wearing the plain clothes to prove to himself that wealth was something he had, not something that had him. He wrote, I do not regard a man as poor if the little which remains is enough for him. That's not a statement about income. That's a statement about a relationship with desire. Epictetus sits at the other end of the financial spectrum entirely. He was born a slave. He owned essentially nothing. His master once broke his leg to demonstrate physical power over him. And from inside that reality, zero wealth, zero property, zero external freedom, he developed the most precise philosophy of inner freedom ever written. He taught his students not from a place of abundance, but from a place of genuine material poverty. And what he taught was this: the man who needs things to feel free will never be free. The man who has mastered his desires is free regardless of what he owns or doesn't own. He said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Not a motivational quote, a lived reality for a man who had no choice but to find freedom somewhere other than his wallet. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome. He lived in a palace. He had access to everything material the ancient world could offer. And his private journal, the Meditations, written for no audience, never intended to be published, is full of reminders to himself not to be seduced by it. He wrote about the vanity of luxury, about how quickly emperors and their empires are forgotten, about how the things people spend their lives chasing are gone before the body that chased them is cold. He wrote how many Chrysippus, how many Socrates, how many Epictetus have time already swallowed up? Even the greatest names disappear. Even the greatest fortunes dissolve. So, what is the point of spending your peace of mind on the accumulation of things that will not outlast you? That's not nihilism. That's clarity. And it produces a completely different relationship with money than the one most people operate from. Now, we go deep. These are not categories of spending. These are the three psychological roots that the Stoics identified and that modern behavioral economics has since confirmed as the drivers behind most financial pain. Root cause one: you are buying approval. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that should be printed on every debit card in the world. It never ceases to amaze me how we love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Think about the last 5 non-essential things you spent money on. How many of them were genuinely for you, for your private enjoyment, your genuine comfort, your actual well-being? And how many of them were, at least in part, for how they would look, for the image they would create, for the reaction they might get? The outfit bought for an event, was it because you needed clothes? Or because of how you'd appear in the photos? The phone upgrade, did the old one stop working? Or did the new model just look better when other people held it? Did you choose the restaurant because the food is genuinely better? Or because it's the kind of place worth being seen at and worth posting? The car, transportation, or statement? The holiday rest and experience, or content and credibility? None of this is a moral judgment. This is just an honest observation. A significant and, for most people, shocking percentage of what we spend money on is not for ourselves. It is for the version of ourselves we want other people to perceive. Seneca called this living according to opinion rather than according to nature, and he said it was one of the fastest routes to destroying both your finances and your peace of mind simultaneously, because the audience you are spending for is never satisfied. There is always a newer version of the thing, always someone who is what you just bought, and more, always a higher standard being set by people who are themselves spending to meet a standard set by someone else. It's approval all the way down, and it is financially bottomless. The Stoic question, the one Marcus Aurelius asked himself regularly, is this: if nobody ever knew I had this, would I still want it? If the answer is yes, buy it. That's a genuine desire. If the answer is no, or even maybe you're not buying the thing, you're buying what you think the thing will make people think of you, and that purchase will never satisfy you, because what you actually wanted was the approval, the status, the feeling of being seen a certain way. The object can't give you that. Not permanently. Not in the way you need. Root cause to you are buying comfort from discomfort. This one is quieter than the first. It doesn't announce itself as loudly. But for many people it is the bigger leak. Here's how it works. You have a hard day. Difficult meeting. Frustrating situation. The kind of low-grade stress that doesn't explode but just sits there, heavy and unresolved. And without even fully deciding to, you open a delivery app, or you add something to a cart, or you make a plan to go out, or you buy something because the act of buying creates a small, immediate feeling of control and reward in a moment when everything else feels out of control and unrewarding. And in isolation, none of those decisions feel significant. It's just one order, just one purchase, just one night out to take the edge off. But look at your bank statement over a full month and find every transaction that happened on a difficult day, after a difficult conversation, during a difficult week. For most people, the pattern is undeniable. The Stoics understood this mechanism perfectly. Epictetus said that most people run from difficulty toward pleasure, and that this running, repeated enough times, builds a prison, because now you need the pleasure to function. The discomfort becomes unbearable without a purchase to soften it, and purchases get more expensive over time. What worked last month doesn't hit the same way this month. The threshold keeps rising. Seneca's response to this was radical and deliberate. He practiced voluntary discomfort. Regularly, intentionally, he would remove the comforts, eat a plain meal, wear simple clothing, skip the entertainment, sit with the quiet and the boredom, and the low-grade discomfort of just being without distraction, not as punishment, as training. He was teaching his nervous system through repeated evidence that discomfort is survivable, that he did not need to spend his way out of every difficult feeling, and that training changed his relationship with money permanently. Because every time you sit with discomfort instead of buying your way out of it, you prove to yourself that you can, and that proof accumulates. It becomes an identity. The modern application of this is uncomfortable to hear, but important to say. The midnight delivery order isn't about hunger. The retail therapy isn't about the item. The weekend isn't entirely about enjoyment. A significant portion of it is about creating distance between yourself and something you don't want to feel. The Stoic fix is not to never spend on comfort. It is to build such a tolerance for discomfort that comfort becomes a genuine choice, not a compulsion. Root cause 3, you are living for a future self you haven't built yet. This is the one that stings most, because it feels the most virtuous. A lot of spending is aspirational. You buy things not for who you are right now, but for who you're going to become. The gym equipment for the fitness journey that starts next Monday. The professional wardrobe for the career level you haven't reached yet. The business tools and software for the company that's still an idea in a notes app. The books that will make you the person who reads books. The lifestyle, the restaurants, the travel, the aesthetic that belongs to an income. Bracket you're working toward, but haven't entered yet. And on the surface this looks like ambition. It feels like investment in yourself. But the Stoics would ask a harder question. Are you buying the result? Or are you buying the feeling of being? The kind of person who would have those things? Because those are very different transactions. The person who will actually get fit doesn't need the equipment first. They start with what they have. The person who will actually build the business doesn't need all the tools before the revenue. They start with the minimum and build from results. The person who will actually grow their income doesn't need the lifestyle before the growth. They build the habits first and let the income follow. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Notice the order. First decide who you are, then act accordingly. Not first by the things that signal who you want to be, and hope the identity follows. Aspirational spending feels like momentum. Most of the time it's expensive procrastination dressed up as self-investment. What the Stoics did instead the full toolkit. Now, the practical side. Not budgeting tips. Something more fundamental is the actual practices the Stoics used to build a healthy, intentional relationship with money. Practice 1, the voluntary poverty exercise. Seneca described this in extraordinary detail in his letters to Lucilius. Once a month or once a week for those serious about it live as simply as possible for a few consecutive days. Cook the most basic meal you can. Wear clothes you already own. Skip every non-essential. No divorce. No entertainment spending. No buying anything that isn't genuinely necessary. Then at the end of it, ask yourself Seneca's question. Is this the condition that I feared? And document your honest answer. Most people discover something surprising. Not just that they survived, but that those days were often cleaner, quieter, less cluttered, sometimes even more peaceful than the days full of spending and consuming. That discovery is transformative, because now you have direct evidence, not theory, not philosophy, but your own lived experience that you need less than you thought, and that evidence changes the weight every future purchase carries. When you know you can live on less and be okay, every spending decision becomes a real choice, not a reflex, not a compulsion, a choice. Practice to the 24-hour rule. Simple, powerful, almost embarrassingly effective. Before any non-essential purchase, anything that isn't food, bills, or genuine immediate need wait 24 hours. Not because 24 hours will always change your mind. Sometimes you'll wait and still buy the thing, and that's completely fine. But the pause creates something the impulse buy never allows. The space to examine the desire before acting on it. The Stoics called this precocious attention to self, the practice of watching your own mind with curiosity and honesty before letting it drive behavior. In that 24-hour window, ask 3 questions. 1. Do I actually want this? Or does it just feel good to think about having it? 2. Am I buying this for me, or for how it will look? 3. Will this matter in a week? In a month? Impulse spending only works when there's no gap between want and action. The moment you insert a pause, the desire often reveals itself for what it is, temporary, surface level, driven by algorithm or emotion rather than genuine need. You don't need willpower. You need a 24-hour delay. Practice 3, the subtraction audit. Marcus Aurelius was known for a particular mental habit of not asking, "What can I add?" but "What can I remove?" He believed that clarity came not from accumulation but from subtraction, that the wisest decisions were often the ones about what to stop doing. Stop keeping, stop spending on. Apply this to your finances once a month. Not a budget review. A subtraction audit. Go through your last 30 days of spending. Did this actually improve my life, or did it just feel like it would at the moment of purchase? No self-punishment. No guilt spiral. The Stoics were not interested in self-flagellation. They were interested in honest observation followed by better decisions. What you're looking for. The subscriptions running in the background that you haven't used in months. The memberships that made sense when you signed up and make no sense now. The recurring costs that have become invisible because they're automatic. The habits that cost money without returning anything real. Subtract them quietly, without drama. Without making it a big declaration about your new minimalist lifestyle. Just remove what doesn't serve you and redirect that money toward what does. Practice for the Stoic spending question. This is perhaps the simplest practice on this list, and the most consistently powerful. Before any significant purchase, the Stoics asked a version of this question. Does this serve my values, or does it serve my image? Values are things like health, genuine connection, learning, building something, taking care of the people you love, creating work you're proud of. Image is everything else. How you appear. What people think. The signal the purchase sends. Both have a place. Life is not meant to be joyless or Spartan. But when you make the distinction consciously, when you actually know which column a purchase falls into before you make it, you stop making the unconscious trades that quietly drain your finances and your Practice 5. The evening financial reflection. Seneca ended every day with reflection. He asked himself 3 questions before sleep. What did I do well today? What did I do poorly? What will I do differently tomorrow? Apply those same questions to your spending once a week. Not to punish yourself. To stay conscious. To keep your relationship with money from going on autopilot, because autopilot, for most people, is expensive. Section 5. The deeper truth: money, identity, and freedom. Here's where the philosophy goes somewhere no financial advice ever goes. The Stoics believed that the problem with money was never really about money. It was about what money represents in the mind of the person spending or accumulating it. For most people, money represents something deeper than purchasing power. It represents security, freedom, status, proof of worth. The feeling that everything is going to be okay. The feeling that you matter. The feeling that you've made it, or at least that you're on the way. And because of that, money is carrying all that's psychological. Weight no amount of it ever quite feels like enough. You save a target amount and feel relief for a moment. Then the anxiety returns and the number needs to be higher. You reach a new income level and the lifestyle adjusts almost immediately, because somewhere in your mind you need to prove something to someone, and the proof requires visible evidence, and visible evidence costs money. Epictetus put it in the most precise terms possible. The man who is not satisfied with what he has would not be satisfied with what he wishes he had. Read that carefully. This is not a motivational line. This is a psychological diagnosis. If the dissatisfaction is internal, if the emptiness is in you, not in your bank account, then filling the bank account will not fill the emptiness. It will just give the emptiness a more expensive address. This is what the Stoics were really addressing when they wrote about money. Not transactions, not budgets, not net worth. The relationship between desire and identity. The question of whether you are a person who uses money or a person who is used by it. Marcus Aurelius made a distinction that cuts to the center of this. He separated things that are preferred indifference, things that are nice to have, useful to have worth pursuing, things genuinely good. Money falls into the first category. It is a preferred indifference, preferable to not having it, useful when you have it, worth pursuing within reason. But it is not genuinely good in the Stoic sense. It cannot make you virtuous. It cannot make you wise. It cannot make you the kind of person who is actually at peace. Those things come from somewhere else entirely. They come from the quality of your character, the consistency of your habits, the honesty of your self-examination, the depth of your relationships, the meaning of your work, and none of those require a specific number in your account. The Stoic who understands this doesn't stop caring about money. They stop needing money to tell them they're okay. And that shift, subtle as it sounds, changes everything. Because when your security comes from your character rather than your account balance, money stops being something you chase desperately and starts being something you build deliberately. You spend less on approval because you're not seeking it. You spend less on escape because you've built a tolerance for discomfort. You stop buying the aspirational self because you're busy building the actual one. And what's left is what you actually spend on, intentional, aligned with who you actually are and what you actually value. That's not deprivation. That's freedom. Closing Let me bring this all the way home. The question was simple. What's eating your money? The surface answers are subscriptions, food delivery, impulse buys, lifestyle creep. But the Stoic answer goes deeper than that. What's really eating your money is the gap between who you are and who you're trying to appear to be. What's really eating your money is the discomfort you haven't learned to sit with. What's really eating your money is the future self you keep buying things for, instead of becoming. And the Stoic path out of that is not a budget. It's a different relationship with desire. It's the voluntary poverty exercise proving to yourself you need less than you think. It's the 24-hour rule-creating space between want and action. It's the subtraction audit, removing what doesn't serve you with honesty and without drama. It's the spending question, does this serve my values or my image? It's the evening reflection, staying conscious instead of going on autopilot. And underneath all of those practices, the foundation that makes them work is the Stoic understanding that your security does not live in your account balance. It lives in your character. The Stoics didn't become free by earning more. They became free by needing less. And that freedom is real financial peace. Not the performance of it is available to you right now. At whatever income level you're at, in whatever season of life you're in. It starts not with a budget. It starts with a question. What am I really spending for? Answer that honestly, and everything else begins to shift. If this video changed how you see your own spending, subscribe to the Stoic Path every week. Philosophy doesn't just sound good. Philosophy that works when life gets real. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. You already know who.